Hi, everyone. My name is Jaime. I'm a nurse, a mystic, and a spiritual teacher. I didn't used to believe in anything woo woo. I was an atheist until my spiritual awakening brought me back to the spiritual roots that I remembered in childhood. Today, I'm going to be talking about the difference between toxic positivity and taking responsibility for your thoughts. Spirit said this was a very important message because there's so much messaging out there that is just like, think good thoughts and everything will be fine. Well, if it were that simple, everybody would be doing it. Now, it is important to have gratitude, be reflective, and it's also important to honor, recognize, bring awareness to your true emotions and the reality of a situation. Because in my experience with the spiritual world, a lot of times the toxic positivity brings on delusional spiritual psychosis with bypassing and just total craziness. So it's important to have balance. So I'm going to talk first about again, just like the detrimental effect that having toxic positivity can have. So, to take one of the more extreme examples, would be if somebody, you know, purposefully hurt themselves or died tragically in some way, you wouldn't say to that person, everything happens for a reason, or it was part of their soul's plan, or but they're in a better place now, because it is entirely denying the reality, the human reality that does exist, that this person is gone and that they're gone in a very tragic way. And so you have to let a person be, or let yourself be where you are with your emotions. It doesn't mean wallowing, it doesn't mean only focusing on the negative, but there's a process that your human mind, your spirit, your body has to go through in order to adjust to a large magnitude loss of someone that's close to you. So, the things that you can do to support yourself in those moments that don't involve toxic positivity are allowing yourself to rest, validating, wow, that's what we're going through is really hard. What I'm going through is really hard. Talking to friends, talking to therapists, not just pretending like it's fine. Even if you are a very spiritual person and you know that they are fine on the other side, you can't just force yourself to be there. There's a process. There's a part of you that misses their humanness. They are gone from their body, and that is sad. That does invoke grief, and that's okay. Now, the way you can apply toxic positivity in this situation, it would be just reinforcing your own support for where you're at. So being positive about the fact that you're grieving. And what I mean is allowing it to be. And also allowing yourself to be mad that you have to even grieve. It's not that, like, oh, I need to be happy that I'm grieving. It's just allowing what is. And I guess you can't even call it toxic positivity. It's more just allowing what is. Allow yourself to be mad that you have to deal with this and your friends have no idea what it's like to lose a parent, or to even have to move. Even if it's something like that, it doesn't have to be the loss of a person. That can be very difficult. So you want to just allow what is. And then once you allow yourself for a while, you feel the feelings, cry your tears, write in your journal, go to therapy. If you find that you are consistently being overwhelmed by emotions, you're constantly being triggered from this loss, you feel like maybe you're getting worse, and that will happen from time to time, but overall, if you feel like the trajectory of your grieving from whatever the loss is, like I said, divorce, whatever, if you feel yourself, and I'm not talking like in a matter of weeks, like after 2 weeks, you should be feeling better. Absolutely not. I'm talking like months into like a year or more than a year. If you feel like you're still having like worse and worse time, a harder and harder time, you're going to want to start to evaluate the stories that you're telling yourself. I mean, and ideally you would do this from the gate, but definitely if you find yourself, a long time out from a loss and you feel like you just can't get a hold of yourself about it. So you want to start to evaluate the stories that you're telling yourself. Are you subconsciously telling yourself that this was your fault? Are you blaming yourself? Do you feel shame around what happened, whatever the loss is for you? Do you feel frustrated and angry and you haven't allowed yourself to let that out? It's important to recognize these stories so that you can change them. And this is where you start to integrate more positive thoughts about the situation. You start to tell yourself or have a therapist help you rearrange and correct these thoughts, because if not, they will drive your emotional state forever if you let them. So you start to, and meditation is a great way to do this. When you sit in meditation, you'll be forced to face the stories that you're telling yourself. And if you're uncomfortable in meditation, it's probably because the stories you're telling yourself are not very good ones. And so as you start to change these thoughts through, like I said, a therapist with cognitive behavioral therapy, you can use journaling, write down the thoughts that you're thinking and switch them over. Be honest with yourself about any feelings of guilt, shame, anger, frustration. Fear is a big one, fear of a future loss. And evaluate them and hold them up against reality. You want to recognize that, yes, this did happen to you, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen again and again and again. There's always a chance that we'll lose someone else, but you can't focus on that and live from that place, or it can consume you. So you can start to also invoke gratitude practices, kind of good things that happened today practices. So at the end of the night, you want to reflect on the day and give yourself, credit for doing something that maybe was difficult. Gratitude in the mornings, I find, really helps. And then, like I said, meditation and therapy. You want to be doing something daily, though, because I find that for me, if I don't reset my mindset or evaluate my mindset in the morning, I can easily get derailed. And so you want to focus in the morning, like I said, on meditation, on gratitude for at least 15 minutes, and then move on with your day. And also try to have something you can come back to throughout the day to focus on. And if something big comes up during the day, like a trigger, you can tell yourself, okay, I will take a look at this tonight. For example, if you're at work and you get triggered, but you don't want to perpetually do that and just push it down. You want to get home at night and focus and say, okay, what was that today? Why did I feel triggered? And journal it out. And you will begin to see again the stories and thoughts that you've been telling yourself that are hijacking your emotional state throughout the day. So Spirit's saying that is the difference between toxic, blind positivity that is oversimplified and just spiritual bypassing, and actually taking responsibility for your thoughts and therefore your emotions and your emotional reactions. It starts, before the emotion even comes up. There's a story, there's a thought that you're telling yourself and you're believing, and you can change that thought and change your mindset, change your perception, and then you won't have these cycles of emotional either outbursts, or if you're feeling just like down, you won't get stuck in those. Okay, now Spirit says it's time for a card. This is the Starseed Oracle deck by Rebecca Campbell. And this is Loosen Your Grip. Coping mechanisms, density, addiction, let God in. This card is all about loosening your grip, finding more positive coping mechanisms, just like we're talking about today. And Spirit is also saying this card is giving a nod to the fact that we can get addicted to negative thought loops. They can be literally comforting for us because we grew up in a household where people thought that way, and it can be very, very difficult to break those loops, but you can ask your spirit guides for help too, especially if you find that this is something that is deeply seated. Spirit is also reminding us that the reactions that we cling to often cover up our most vulnerable space. So if you're identifying with this video in the context of anger, say for example, that may be the emotion that you're most comfortable with. But underneath that anger, there's probably grief. There might be fear. There might be, childhood memories that are very difficult and vulnerable. But you can't keep covering that space up. You have to learn how to let it go. You can only lose what you cling to. So if you're clinging to these emotional reactions, that's the only thing you have to lose. If this card appears, you're being called to find the courage to loosen your grip and give up control. Release your coping mechanisms and leave space for grace and God to enter. Sometimes we use emotional reactions to protect ourselves. If I get angry first, then I can't get hurt. If I have a boundary, which is really a wall, with my reactions, then nobody can get in, nobody can hurt me. Now, it's important to remember that reflection is key. Taking a step back, taking a breath, and reflecting. And you can let go of this pattern and be sure that you're not leaving yourself exposed to future abuses. This is not about allowing things to be the way they are. It's not about dropping your reactions so that you let whatever happen to you, or being some sort of like stoic monk that never has a reaction. This is simply about letting go of the cycles of reactions that are no longer serving you. And then Spirit wanted me to pull a card from my mediumship deck for those who are watching this video going through grief related to the loss of someone or something. And so we have Don't Be Afraid as a message from your loved one. Again, these reactions can often be a cover-up for fear of future loss. And then this one, life is a series of choices. Choose love. So choose to love yourself. Choose to react from a place of love toward your own thoughts and toward other people. Again, that doesn't mean allowing them to, anybody to walk all over you. You just want to be examining your reaction so that you can then decide how to move forward with clarity, and you're not just allowing your trigger to run your life. You can decide if that reaction is appropriate. Sometimes it will be. And then the final messages from your loved one. We will be together again. I was met by so many loving people. So know that it's okay to drop your anger, your fear. It's okay to step into love. It is so hard, I know, but you can do it, and I promise it will be worth it. I wish you all the best in this next chapter of your life, and so does your loved one. Thanks for watching.